Enfield is the first place in London to have a new type of advice shop aimed at helping people with council tax, rates and the full range of state benefits. The shop at 520 Hertford Road, opposite the Albany swimming pool, has been set up by Enfield Council in conjunction with the Leaside District Benefit Agency. Its staff are trained to help the public get their full legal entitlements, and it is accessible for wheelchair users.
Councillor Pat Horrige collapsed and died at a meeting of the Southgate Community Forum on Tuesday night. The 58-year-old chairman of Leisure Services and councillor for Enfield Lock Ward was in Southgate Circus Library defending the council's position on the Saracens ground issue in front of an audience including many of the players. His last words were, "I know I'm a Daniel in the lion's den," before he collapsed holding the microphone. A community nurse tried to revive him, and resuscitation equipment was brought in from the fire station opposite, but he was pronounced dead on arrival at Chase Farm Hospital. Pat from Bideford Road, Enfield Lock, had been a councillor since 1990. His wife Verna became a councillor last year. He worked as a toolmaker in Edmonton and was still fully active, even though he'd suffered a heart attack in 1993. He leaves 5 sons and 7 grandchildren. Labour leader Jeff Rodin said, "Pat died doing what he enjoyed most, talking to people, explaining where he was coming from. His contributions will be sorely missed by the people of Enfield."
A teenage girl was killed in a tragic accident on the Great Cambridge Road on Saturday evening. 17-year-old Jenny Ann Hunt was alone when she decided to cross the busy dual carriageway. She went to the traffic lights 80 yards north of the junction with Trinity Avenue. But as she walked across the northbound carriageway, she was hit by an A-Reg Ford Granada driven by 22-year-old Stuart Nigel Grayson from Tillotson Road, Edmonton. A police investigation has begun, and witnesses are urged to contact Sergeant Paul Spencer of Enfield Police on 081 345 1277. Jenny lived with her family in Dimsdale Drive, Enfield. Her stepfather, Eddie Simper, spoke of the agony they were going through. "We are just shocked at the moment," he said. "She was planning to go to university in Hatfield to become a physiotherapist. It's all such a waste." Jenny was in the upper sixth form at Bishop Stopford School in Brick Lane, Enfield. She was taking her A-levels in biology, English and business studies. Her headmaster, Brian Pickard, said, "We have all been dreadfully shocked by this tragic accident. The pupils and staff are numb with disbelief and sadness, and she was such a delightful girl with so very many friends." He added she was a school prefect and over the years had contributed a very great deal to life in school. It is a tragic loss for us all.
Burglars struck twice within days in Nags Head Road, Enfield, last week. They stole a Philips video camera and jewellery together worth £10,000 from one house after 7:30 p.m. on Monday. Another house was broken into between 11 p.m. on Saturday and 3 a.m. on Wednesday. Jewellery was also taken. In the first case, the thieves forced open the back door. In the second, they got in by forcing a rear bedroom window.
A solicitor from Enfield who kept his senior partner in the dark while he falsified bookkeeping entries and juggled with clients' money has been struck off. Stephen Raymond, 48, of Wellington Road, Enfield, appeared before a disciplinary tribunal last Thursday. His colleague, Keith Lewis, 53, of Belmont Close, Totteridge, who was said to have independently committed the same offences, was also struck off. The 2 solicitors, who worked at Dossman's in Argyle Street, Mayfair, were said to have virtually taken over the firm from its founder, Lawrence Dossman, as he approached retirement. Mr. Raymond and Mr. Lewis both admitted breaches of the accountancy rules when they appeared at the Solicitors' Disciplinary Tribunal in central London. Mr. David Swift, representing the Law Society, told the tribunal that both men had been partners in Dossman's since 1973. But the senior partner exerted less and less control as he grew older and was isolated from the pair who worked on a separate floor. A routine check in November 1993 exposed the problems, and a Law Society accountant examined the books on April the 11th this year. The state of the accounts was unknown to Mr. Dossman, who had largely left the management of the firm to his partners. They performed various irregularities in relation to client accounts, quite independently and without the knowledge of each other, said Mr. Swift. Mr. Swift told the tribunal there were a number of false entries in Mr. Raymond's books inserted in an attempt to cloud over the picture. In his case, there was a shortfall of £27,700 in the client accounts. Mr. Raymond told the tribunal, "I must apologise to you, my family and partners. I have gained nothing financially and have not even the finances to be represented today. I've been left with substantial debts and will not be surprised if I end up being petitioned for bankruptcy. I do not seek to justify my actions. They were unjustifiable. This was all done to maintain office survival, and no client suffered any loss." He said he had, over the years, ploughed £66,000 into the business. Both solicitors were ordered to pay £3,000 costs each.
The annual school's carol concert takes place on Monday at 7:45 p.m. at Broxbourne Civic Hall. Little Angels from St Andrew's Lane Junior Mixed Infants in Cheshunt, Cranbourne Junior Mixed Infants in Hoddesdon, and the John Warner School in Hoddesdon will sing all the Christmas favourites, and the audience can sing along too. Tickets cost £2 for adults and £1 for children and old age pensioners. Early booking is recommended. Tickets can be obtained by calling the box office on 0992 441946.
An elderly woman has removed her infirm husband from a ward in Highlands Hospital, claiming conditions there are like a hellhole. Stroke victim Victor Rainbow, 84, was in the hospital's acute care ward, waiting for the council to find funds to transfer him to a residential care home in Loughton. His wife Dorothy, also 84, from Ashdown Road, refused to leave him in the ward any longer. Dorothy and her daughter Maggie Holding thought the attitude of the staff was dispirited at best, but their main complaint was about the amount of drugs Victor was being given. Dorothy admitted she thought Maggie was wearing rose-coloured spectacles when her daughter told this newspaper how much her father improved when she took him out of the hospital for a few days. But during a week's holiday in Felixstowe with her husband and other daughter, Valerie, Dorothy was shocked by the effect the recommended medication had on Victor. Of course, we followed the instructions, and for the rest of the day Victor was like a zombie, out for the count, she said. Valerie refused to give her dad any more of the pills and took them to a local doctor friend who felt the pills were too strong and recommended a big reduction in the dosage. The hospital's operation manager, James Scott, agreed conditions were not perfect. "We are trying to offer 1990s care in an 1890s building," he said. "But the ward will be removed by Easter, and we're relocating our first patients into our major new development block in December." He said the doctors had sat down with the family to explain why particular drugs were being used. As this newspaper exclusively revealed back in October, Victor had been stranded in the ward after East Enfield Social Services ran out of money from their allocated budget. Although the funds were promised soon, Victor's family had to contact MP Tim Egger, who, through letters to the council and the hospital, sorted out the problem. He has received assurances that Victor will be placed in the home in a few weeks' time.
A collection of bells was the focus of a meeting of the Ponders End Townswomen's Guild. Mrs. Gwen Torrance showed the bells, including a school one, and told of their history. Members and friends recently celebrated the Guild's 33rd birthday party. A cheque was presented to Arnold House, Cheshire Homes. Meetings are held on the second Wednesday of the month at the United Reformed Church Hall, College Court, Ponders End.
A letter. I am seeking information about a deceased aunt and her descendants. Her name was Edith Mary Fletcher, and she was born at 137 Raleigh Road, Enfield, in 1886. Her parents were Joseph Fletcher, a house painter, and Mary Elizabeth, née Marriott, who were married at the Enfield Baptist Tabernacle, London Road, Enfield, in 1882. Edith may have married in her family area. Your help will be greatly appreciated, and I may be fortunate to gain contact with the family I never knew. All correspondence will be answered, and it's from a Mrs. Hazel Shrub of 12 Rubiton, Rubiton Street, Wollongbar, Wollongbar, New South Wales, 2477, Australia. Another item here, a surge in the prices of flats and small houses has partly compensated for a slump in the overall property market in Enfield. A study of mortgage figures shows that at the end of the third quarter of this year, the average price of a home in the borough was 2% down against the same time last year. However, prices paid by first-time buyers increased by 4% in the same period. They generally sought smaller, cheaper properties. The survey by the London Research Centre was based on figures from the Halifax Building Society. It showed the average price of a home in Enfield was around £79,000. The average price paid by first-time buyers was £61,100. Sean King of Edmonton estate agents Jason King commented, "Business is still good, but the problem is that there isn't enough good property coming onto the market." That's the end of the first half. We'll see you on the other side in just a moment.